Okay, story time on how I was left with a 6-month-old baby girl for over 48 hours when I was only supposed to be there for 5 to 6 hours tops. So, for context, I am now 22 years old with a 10-month-old son of my own. So, this happened quite a few years ago. I think I was like 18 or 19 when this happened. And they actually lived out of state. So, I had driven probably a good over an hour and a half away to get to this person's house. I had only been nannying for a little over a year, and I had actually been referred to this family of the 6-month-old girl. Okay, so I had gotten to this person's house around 4:35 p.m. and they had typically said that they'd be home around 10:30 that night so I can start getting home because I had a bit of a commute. Okay, so I had gotten there and they definitely were in a rush. Like, I think they had left no more than 10 minutes from me walking into the house, which was crazy. So they pretty much told me where the formula was for the girl, clothes, diapers, diaper cream, whatever I needed for what I thought was gonna only be a few hours being there. Okay, so I had sent the first message actually a little after 11 o'clock, but they didn't even receive it until the next night. I think it was like 8:30 p.m. They must have turned their phone on and received the message, but I had not gotten any indications that they read the message or, acknowledged the message at all. So I pretty much just told them, like, hey, I'm sorry to bother you, just checking in. You had said you'd be home around 11 p.m. and I didn't want to rush you, but I should start heading home because I'm over an hour away. A few hours had gone by, and I'm pretty sure a few hours, most literally, I think I messaged them again later at 4 a.m. and pretty much just said, hey, is everything okay? I was genuinely worried. I let them know their daughter is okay and that I wasn't sure what to do because I had no emergency contacts. So the only thing I could do is call the police department. Still no response. I waited for another 2 hours and then I called the police department, explained my situation, and they pretty much said, we'll be right over. So I started writing a message to the family and then I sent it as soon as I saw the police department was there and letting them know that the police department is there because I had no clue. Oh, this is falling because it thinks I'm crazy. Okay, so my phone thinks this is all crazy because it keeps wanting to fall. So anyways, fire and rescue ended up showing up. EMS ended up showing up. A bunch of police officers ended up showing up and 2 detectives showed up, which freaked me out more than I already was freaked out, and I was quite freaked out. And they came in, and I guess the EMS and fire and rescue were there because they were technically doing a wellness check on baby girl. And anyways, the police pretty much said, where do you know their last location was? And I said the only thing that they told me was they were going to Chick-fil-A for dinner and that they were going to the AMC that was literally only 5 minutes down the street for a movie. So the police, a couple of the officers ended up going and checking to make sure they were actually where they told me they were going. The officer came back and pretty much said they definitely were at the Chick-fil-A, but they never saw them at the AMC, the movie theater. Which I was like, they didn't go to the movie, so where the hell did they go? It's like literally makes me want to scream so badly. Okay, so I ended up putting baby down for a nap, which I was actually surprised how well she did sleeping through the night and for her naps because they did say she was struggling pretty bad with colic. But she did do pretty good with me, which I was very shocked about. Anyways, the police pretty much said that they'll have a social worker come and take baby girl until the parents return or until they're able to find an emergency contact or family in the area to come get her. And I respectfully said, I'm really sorry. I just don't feel comfortable with anyone taking her since I was pretty much the last known guardian with her. That's pretty much how the police explained it, as I'm the last known guardian who was left with baby girl. The police said, okay, that is fine, but we will have an officer sit at the house until the parents do return or until we are able to hear from them and figure out where they are. I didn't hear from them. I still didn't hear from them. They didn't hear from them, and they tried calling them and contacting them. They tried to do all of the things. Okay, so fast forward. a cop did sit at the house 24/7, and an officer came and checked on me every 4 or 5 hours just to make sure I was okay. The baby was okay. We had what we needed. Another officer was very nice and actually brought me food the one evening, and then for breakfast the last morning I was there, he came with breakfast, which was very nice and very unnecessary. Anyways, what's crazy is baby girl wakes up from her first nap and I start hearing yelling outside. And when I say yelling, I mean like high-pitched screaming yelling. Okay, so I hear yelling and it's from her parents outside, and I just wait inside and I'm kind of freaked out because like they're yelling and screaming. A minute later, a cop comes in and says, okay, her parents are back and we have to wait until the detective gets here and a social worker gets here until we allow them both back inside, which was very understandable to me. So I waited with the officer inside. Baby was doing her like tummy time, laying on her back, playing on the floor. Mind you, this whole time, the whole 48 plus hours of all of this happening, they had a dog that was profusely vomiting everywhere, all over the house. So I'm trying to clean up puke, and the officer, which I find it a little bit funny that the officer was in the house helping me clean up loads of dog vomit everywhere. So I think like 20-30 minutes go by. A detective comes in, and following by a social worker and the parents. And pretty much the parents said to me, so sorry, we decided to go out of town. I pretty much stared at them and didn't really know what to say. And the officer who had originally come inside helping me with the dog looked at me, looked at the parents, and said, you went out of town without communicating with your babysitter? And they said, yeah, we thought everything would be okay. She seemed very reliable. She seemed like she was able. Able. That is exactly what they said. She was able. So I pretty much collected myself and told them, I am no longer needed here. You have who you need here for your necessities. Meaning you obviously have needs that need to be met. The officer pretty much said, you're not leaving until you get paid. So the dad was like, what is your Venmo? So I gave him my Venmo, and he only paid me for the 5 hours that I was supposed to be there. And the officer looked at me and said, did you get paid? And I said, yes, sir. They only paid me for the 5 hours that I was supposed to be here. The officer looked at him and said, absolutely not. You are paying her for the full 48 plus hours she has been here. So I tried to be as nice as I could, and I ended up charging them my nightly rate, and then for during the day, my hourly rate, which the officer said that's a little too nice since you were pretty much no contact with them this whole time. An officer walked me to my car and just explained to me, please do not talk about this incident unless you are contacted by the detective in whom was inside. I was not contacted until a whole year later by the detective explaining that the parents pretty much were on probation, but were able to keep guardianship of their daughter. Pretty much from what I understand and what the detective explained is they had to have visitations from a social worker and I guess social services for 2 years following the incident, three times a week, which I guess that's very necessary. They explained a little bit more of the detail to me, and I just felt honestly really bad for the little girl, and I still think about her so frequently, and just really hope she's okay and is in a good situation now. 2 years ago, I get a message from the family, and they pretty much just asked, hey, are you able to babysit baby girl? When I tell you I didn't respond to the message at all, I didn't respond to the message, and I thought it was so crazy. Especially that they weren't supposed to, 1, reach out, 2, they were not able to have babysitters for I think 3 years unless it was immediate family, and they had to get an okay from a social worker. That is pretty much the gist of everything that had happened. There definitely is a lot more that did happen, but that's the story time on how I was left with baby girl for 48 hours.